troubles ours quite a bit. And they let the attorney and those 3 council people, well, 2 council people and the mayor, took the code and chose what they would follow and did a development agreement on that. And so they were concerned that, say a Maverick comes, that their code wouldn't allow Maverick to be there, so they didn't want to use that piece of the code. One that they referenced in the meeting was that the 45-degree visibility on the triangle on a corner, that they don't have to follow that code. There were just several of them in there that they just pick and choose, so it was pretty.
Say the visibility triangle, first accident the town gets sued.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting anyway. So Brian Priest handed in his resignation right after the meeting, and Ramey also.
Is this the new mayor in Charleston?
Bob Wallace.
Well, I thought that that they elected a new mayor, that he's still in.
He's still in. He's got 1 more year.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. Anyway, it was quite the meeting.
Didn't want to miss that one, huh?
They did. I tell you, they got threatened with, if we won't do this, Daniel will. And the attorney, their attorney was Dan Matthews. And they had said that several times in the meeting. And Alan Brown asked, he said, I just want to ask Eric point blank if that's true. And I says, you know what? I have a list right here of items that I can protest and be at a boundary commission meeting. And we wouldn't even be in this meeting. I says, and so my 10 items that I have here, I says, are all legitimate. I says, and if we wanted it, it wouldn't be in this meeting, it'd already be there. The annexation line goes all the way to 189. These are the items that we had to protest. Inhibit future annexation by building an island. Dedication to the right-of-way of the county does not indicate compliance with the corridor preservation agreement, which they just signed. The timeline submittal requirement was not met, the legal requirement on their timeline, they missed that. Notice to municipality not met, so they were supposed to notice all the municipalities and special service districts. They missed those. The recorded plat was not correct with the legal description for when they certified that. The annexation petition, it wasn't the right map. It didn't line up with the legal description. And so all those items we had were all great items to protest on. Mayor Koalas and Ramey, I went down to a meeting down there, and they signed us a letter that said, the intersection will line up with our corridor preservation for a future signalized, and they will, within 60 days of annexation, move the line from the other side back to the middle of 189. With those 2 big items that we had, we dropped the protest. Well, we didn't drop it, we never filed it. Because those were the 2 main items, that was the reason we was even looking at that property over there, was to make sure that that intersection would be. So, anyway, the meeting went, it was crazy. It was crazier after. But I found out a way you can get out of your job.
There you go.
Just quit.
Done.
Just quit.
Who wants to go?
I think they're
Oh,
in trouble.
right.
I think they're in trouble now because of who they lost. I think they're in deep trouble, but
Where is this again, Eric?
it's right across the road at 189, 3000 South. So it's just nuts that the mayor would even think that the council would know more than the planning commission to pick and choose through that code like that without. And I actually told them after the meeting, I said, what was your recommendation to the council? They said they didn't ask us for a recommendation. They said, I think you should go look up Title 17 of the Utah State Code because I think you just violated state law. You don't have to follow the recommendation, but you have to have one. So I don't know if they will or not, but anyway, it was an interesting meeting. I told them, I don't care what your code says, you guys are in charge of your own code, but it's like, it was nice to clear the air because they had really beat them up with Daniel was going to take it if they did. So it was kind of interesting. Anyway, Todd Wall stop work order. We have the pictures. Kyle's produced those. We'll be looking to see if that's blown through the stop work order that we had. You remember Joe Witt? We issued one there, and then he come in and got everything squared away. We haven't heard a word from Todd Wall, and so we'll be working on that.
Where's that one at?
It's on Little Sweden Road. And January 25th is the local day at the legislature, and sign up cutoff is the 18th. I know all you guys want to do that. Okay, so that's your report. We do have one item of business that we need to do because it's a new year and we go annually. The chairman and vice chair need to be elected again. And so this is our first meeting in January, so we'd entertain a motion for a chair and a vice, well, we probably do them independent, huh? Motion for a chair and then a vice chair for the planning commission for the 2017 calendar year.
I'll move that we keep Eric as the chairman.
I'll second that.
Do I have to call for the vote?
Probably not. You just have to raise your hand.
I don't get a vote unless it's a tie.
I know, you still have to
All in favor?
raise. Aye.
Any opposed?
You did
Done.
such a good job.
Okay, motion for a vice chair.
Make a motion that Gary is the vice chair.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Another
All the
awesome
things they
job.
do to each other.
Good, we're set up for 2017. Okay, the item number 8, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to go over those?
Yes. One spelling error. Oh gosh, I don't know how to describe where it's at. Page 2, second paragraph. Is it opinion? I don't know what it's supposed to say. Didn't make any sense. That's other than that, they look fine.
The second paragraph?
Well, I don't know if my printer printed it out looking different. It was page 2, second paragraph?
These are the minutes.
It's a word.
It's a word.
Yeah.
Okay.
He stated his opinion.
Oh, it's opinion is what it's supposed to say.
Yeah.
No, it says opine,
Yeah, that's
he
the last time we
stated
met.
his
You
opinion.
say
Okay, got it. All right.
So what, did you figure it out?
Yeah,
It's
opined is a word.
It's what?
Opined is a word. It's, he stated his
Oh,
opinion.
oh, okay.
Find.
Yeah.
I thought it was a spelling error. I learned something new. Opine.
As far as council does. Okay.
Do you remember?
Vice chair, you know that?
That's right.
Yeah, that's not a word I use,
He was aware.
but
Awesome, works. Okay, a motion on the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 18th. Oh, sorry, today's January 18th. I'm looking at it wrong. Yes, what she said, November 16th.
Okay, have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Awesome, it's 100%. Okay, motion carries. Okay, back to item number, or did you want to move right tonight?
I'll make a motion.
Let's see where we're
And
going.
then the council's gonna be wanting
I'm a
us to do
secretary.
We was gonna do the council thing first, but then I remembered that we all work for these applicants, so we went through them first. Okay, that takes us to the joint work meeting with the town council.
Okay.
So here we go. What's the time limit you guys want to set before we start?
9 o'clock.
45 minutes.
45 minutes?
9 o'clock.
That work for you, Don?
I don't think we'll get much done in that amount of time, but
Well, I think
I'm
we'll
ready
get a
to
lot
be
more done if
done.
we are motivated to.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
if we're even now discussing how much time you spend, I don't care.
Okay.
We're up to 7 seconds already.
Yeah.
Okay, so we probably ought to start right at the start of this thing. And so we've identified a need. Now we got to identify a purpose. Because there's no use writing the code until we know a purpose. So So what is the purpose? Has everybody got a copy of the 825 code that we already passed? And how that looks as a purpose on top of that one?
Can I question what our work meeting is? Are we now going to work again on 825, or are we looking to create a small business type code to accommodate the ones that don't fit as a home occupation?
Well, we're still thinking we're in home occupation, but we're gonna have a higher use license within that.
So you're looking at expanding,
Yeah,
I thought when we talked last time.
825A,
Yeah,
or
I thought when we talked last time, we were
825B.
gonna have home occupation, the small business, whatever we name it, and then commercial. So are we now talking about expanding this home occupation, and where did that come from? Because that wasn't what we talked about last time.
we talked about the small business,
Mhm.
identifying them
Yeah.
within the residential zone, right?
Right, as a
So-
separate entity from the home occupation.
Well, no, it's not a separate entity, it's a different classification.
Okay,
So it will still fall under the 825 because it's regulated by the zoning. RA5 is where we allow home occupation,
this code states we allow home occupation in
all.
RA1s, RA5Ms.
It says all,
B1s.
yeah, and I think we have to amend that.
Well,
Because
it
if you
contradicts
have,
other sections.
yes, it does definitely contradicts under other, and I think that was written into the county code, but I think we need to look at that and say where these are allowed. Because if you have a home occupation in RA5, and yet you jump across the highway and you're in RA1, you have a whole different set of circumstances.
So we're
Yeah.
talking about only allowing home occupations in
But-
RA5s.
But what you have to realize is even in RA5, we have 1 acre lots. And
We
a
do.
lot of 1 acre lots. And so I don't know that you can say that we should allow different things in RA1 than RA5 because you really got the same situation.
We do have some, lot 1, lot 2, lot 3.
So what does that buy us to restrict it to RA5 if we have 1 acre lots in RA5?
Well, the restriction is allowing it in the residential zone.
Yeah. I
Because if
think-
you don't allow it in the residential zone, then it just goes commercial.
Right. But I'm
So we
just
don't have to
saying, we should,
specify?
I think we should treat it all as residential, whether it's RA1, RA5, because we have such a mix of lots in each of the zones anyway because of, what we inherited.
So then what do we put in the code? Nothing, as far as which zoning it can occupy?
I think it's in a residential zone.
In our residential zone,
Okay, so the verbiage in there would be changed to a residential.
yeah.
In the, all right.
See, like the charter schools,
Right,
we only allow them in RA5.
okay.
And so there are some restrictions zoning wise with what we allow somewhere that we won't allow somewhere else because.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
But that's in the zoning section, not in this home occupation code that we're working on.
Right, right.
But we're gonna allow home occupation in RA5 plus a lot more, is that what you're saying?
You're saying all residential?
Just say residential.
Right, that means
In residential.
RA5 plus more.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to look at it as if they're all 1 acre lots. Because they may be,
You might be happy.
they might be even smaller, yeah. And be in RA5.
So I'm sorry, Eric, you were saying we.
So, and that could
now
be-
we need a need?
No, but that could be a restriction. Certainly within that.
But it has
that
to be
license.
a 5 acre lot or
It has to
something?
have, you could have, it's not
Sure.
eligible if it doesn't have 5 acres, or it's not eligible if it has,
But as far as a home occupation, what we went through and hammered out was that home occupation takes place in the home. So we
Right.
don't care how big the lot
this part,
That
is-
part.
this is all contained within the home.
is. Right, I can do a hair on a half acre lot, nobody knows.
No,
It's
well,
in
you
my
got
house.
some things you need to consider, like parking and traffic and things like that, that should be considered.
Which is in the code and doesn't affect size of the lot.
Well, yeah, it doesn't say anything about the size of the lot, but those
Right.
things certainly need to be.
So if they're able to accommodate all of these
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
then the size of the lot doesn't matter.
I would take issue with that. I think that if somebody's got more ground, they could actually do less impact than somebody who's only got a half acre and they try to do stuff on it. I think that the larger lots will be different than the smaller lots.
Maybe, but most of the larger lots have the same amount of frontage as the smaller lots. We ended up with 200-foot wide long lots based on what the county did way back when.
Yeah, 1972, the requirement was 200 feet.
Yeah, and they went to
Make a
100 feet
suggestion,
for a
Paul, what
while.
do you think?
I do, I think that. I think if we're talking about Eric's mixer again, I think if he's got 5 acres, it's no problem to put that mixer
Well,
back
he's
there.
not a home occupation.
I know, I'm saying if he were, and if it's, you know, what we've talked about before, that 5 acres, it gives you a lot more room to hide stuff than it does if you're
Okay,
just,
but based on our home occupation law right now, just the home occupation, do you think that we should restrict it to RA5 or something like that?
no, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is that I think there's gonna be differences between the smaller lots and the larger lots.
But a
I
home
think we can be a
Yeah, okay.
little bit more relaxed with the larger lots,
Can
is my
we-
opinion.
Can we kind of put the home occupation side up to bed?
That's what I like.
Right, and that's
And
exactly,
then,
But I
this
think
really
we
ought to
put
be
it-
separate in the, if you're gonna expand.
I think to put it to bed, we need to find out if it applies in all residential zones or if it applies in RA5 or RA1.
Right, but I'm saying, are we going to expand this to allow other things?
my understanding was that.
Not this, I didn't think.
Okay, so if not this, then is there an issue with lot size and some of the other things? If it's all
It's
contained
really
within the
not to me,
home?
but it sounds like there is to
Well,
Tom.
under this home occupation.
My understanding was that the home occupation that we all agreed on last time is a done deal. Now what we're working on are the larger, the more,
Intensive use.
exactly. And
How
I
about
think,
if we call that second program a name, so we all
Yeah,
know
give it
what
a
we're
name.
talking about?
what we talked
Yeah,
about
let's
before
not
was
even-
small business.
Call it, I mean, maybe it's a new section, or, I don't know how we call things, but it ought to be under a different title.
While you're on that subject,
Well-
John, what was it that you researched with other,
A term that I kind of acquired, and I
don't
think
include it
makes
on
sense,
here.
is home-based commercial.
Well, I think you.
but what was
I don't like
interesting
that,
to me is that
because
you could find nowhere
If you're gonna change the.
in
I'll-
any
I'll
of
actually
This is
bring
what
that
we're
up
gonna
in a
change it to, we have a public
Okay.
hearing, so people know what you're gonna change it to.
Right, we do need a name for it.
Home-based, self-employed.
No, self-employed's a different animal.
Well, let's just get a name so we can talk
Yeah.
about it, then we can worry
Pick a
about the
name, pick a
details.
name.
Okay, so do it
Let's
like
don't worry
Microsoft
about
and its
Small
project
business.
Timbuktu or something.
It's not a small business.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, Adam Knight doesn't have a small business. Your trucking company is just, is great. I mean, it's, in my opinion, not small. I don't know, Mark, maybe you disagree, but I think what you've developed is huge. It's pretty amazing.
I would classify us as a small business owner.
Yeah, John, if it's 50 employees or less, I think you'd have a hard time calling it anything but small.
Okay, let's go with small business then.
And I don't think we're gonna
so.
approve anybody having 50 employees.
Just as the name to talk about, we have home occupations and small businesses. Let's just go with the name.
Okay.
Smaller.
And with-
No, I hate that name, it's not a good name, but we'll discuss that later.
With the, yeah, with the understanding that the name is probably going to change.
Yeah.
Blank.
For now, I think smaller businesses work. You've got your business, you have the smaller business, and you have the,
Yeah.
so use it for now and change it later.
Yeah, okay. Small
Would it be
business.
helpful for everyone to have the code as it exists right now, the entire home occupation, and/or the one that was approved for the home occupation? I've got copies here, but I don't want to confuse the issue with, it seems like
Well,
having
it's,
something in front of you is
yes,
necessary.
because the purpose, that's what we're working on, is gonna be, as soon as I write small business,
I think that's what we're.
Smaller. Yeah, go on.
So this
No,
is
it's
the one that
not
we
smaller,
approved,
it's
this is
not
not the
small.
original.
Small,
Correct.
yeah,
Well,
small.
it's bigger than residential.
Small.
but
It's not
smaller
small.
than
Bigger than
small
home
business,
occupation.
probably.
I can't say smaller, short people take issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
so we'll just call it. small
Little business.
The menu difference.
All right, clarification then. On what we approved before, is that for all residential? Was that what we were talking about just now?
Currently, the code allows that in all residential.
Is that what we want to do?
Yes, and we're not talking about.
We don't
Let's
know.
take a vote on that.
Well, I don't know that we need to talk about that in our 45 minutes,
Okay.
No, I don't think so either.
because we've pretty much done that.
Yeah, that's-
I think we need to get the purpose on
That's
this
been
one.
agreed.
Latest.
Yeah.
And I think we will have to look at that though.
All right, so Eric, are you asking for small business then?
Yes.
Do we want to limit it to certain zones, or do we want all zones, or what is your question with that?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is find a purpose, what's the purpose of this code that we're gonna write?
Behind it.
And that will tell us what we're gonna do in what zone. That will kind of guide us. We can write the code until we have a purpose. I don't think we're going anywhere.
I agree.
Code.
I think it's a
I
great
like the
idea.
first part of the addendum for the.
And a sheet on the back to scribble on.
Let's see.
Can I get one of each?
You
I
can.
mean, the first,
Here's one for you guys to
the
share.
purpose that we're looking
The
at.
original code and the new code behind it.
First of all, just attending the planning meeting, you guys do an awesome job. You're greatly appreciated. Now, I have spent a ton of time, numerous hours thinking about this home occupation thing. And I have come full circle on it. Originally, I didn't think it was a very good thing. Then as we had the planning meetings, I thought, and the public hearings, I thought we need to do something for these guys. But now I've come back to, I'm not so sure. And the reasons why are, we have roughly 1,000 people in our town. We have more than that, actually.
No, we don't.
We do with the new census, but for CDBG, we want to be under
There you
that.
go.
Okay. So,
You're on camera.
yeah, okay, we don't.
998.
This
Well,
is
we'll
all-
recount to be sure.
That's
But
what we approved last
anyway,
time.
we're right at around 1,000 people. We had maybe 25 businesses come and talk to us. That's 2.5%, that's 3%, let's double it. That's 6% of our town came to want a home business, a home occupation. Now, I don't know that we should change code and develop new code for at a maximum, 6% of our town. The other thing is, I searched numerous counties, cities, and towns that allowed commercial in residential areas, and I did not find one. Not a single one. Now, Eric's probably found some, I hope.
What? Codes?
Anyway, he's not listening, so I did not find any that allowed commercial in residential areas. I look at our general plan, and our general plan says to keep property values high, and it says to promote the safety and welfare of our residents. Allowing commercial businesses in our towns does not improve property values. It does not improve the safety and welfare of our residents. Trucks coming in and out of places and deliveries being made here and there does not improve the safety for the town residents. So I have really come back to, I don't want a large business or a larger business than what we define in our town. So, anyway, those are just some thoughts.
So may I clarify? As far as home occupation, you still feel like
I think we're okay
the
there.
nursery school, the hair salon, the.
And looking at
The
code that does
accountants.
talk to that, we're actually way more lenient than many of the codes. We are lenient compared to what many cities and towns let go on in a home occupation, the smaller one.
And after John's email talking about this, I spent a couple of hours searching just for fun to say, well, John, I found something. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't find anything.
Yeah, I don't think you will find another town, if you do, it won't be very many that allow commercial in residential
But-
areas.
At the same time, I'm not sure, you know, there are some things that I think are okay that some people are thinking are not based on the code. And, you know, I'm worried about someone that has a pickup truck and a construction trailer
Oh.
parking at home.
I don't know that I'm
I don't
particularly
know.
worried about any of the businesses, but what if we had some deliveries being made, or some trucks moving in and out, or people coming, and we had a kid hurt? I think our town could be liable for allowing commercial and residential to some degree. Now, technically, they might fail, but guys, people sue for everything now. People sue for everything, and it would not be past anybody suing the town because they allowed commercial and residential. They might not win, who knows?
Do you have a definition of commercial?
I don't have a very good one.
I know, it's like, we keep saying commercial.
But
What
what
is
I
the
don't-
definition
I don't
of
believe it
commercial?
is commercial.
What I would say is commercial is anything that doesn't fit that home occupation.
Well, Mark's trying to get into a commercial zone for this very reason
Yeah.
you're talking about. He doesn't really want to be recognized in a residential area when he's running tractor trailers around,
Yeah.
or he's working.
I think Mark's an example for us to hold up.
But the town does have designated spots that we could have commercial. So if you refuse a big residential home occupied business, if you refuse them through a code some way, they do have options.
Oh, yeah.
So I totally agree with you.
I was bothered by Gary's experience, that he has the business next to him with the dumpsters and the coming and going and the noise and the smell. And I don't want that to be next door to me. So I want to do whatever has to be done with our code so that that can be controlled. So there's not this open door where the mayor can say, oh, yeah, good.
Well, my concern on that was not so much, I mean, yeah, there's some nuisance things, but in general, I planted a lot of trees, so I don't see a lot. But it's, we made so many people that have come in for commercial businesses jump through all the hoops. And we're letting, in some cases, people run the same business without jumping through any of the hoops. And so I'm just saying, we're not being fair, you know, like the guy with the barn, the party barn that came in. We said no, because he asked. But others didn't ask, and we just
Allow.
allow. And so that's more my concern. And I'm saying, the code was pretty strict, and it didn't help us then. Are we gonna loosen it up, and then what's going to happen? So I'm kinda saying, I'd leave it alone.
I mean, if you've defined a small business and tightened it,
At this point, I have no beef with any of my neighbors. I have good neighbors. I'm just saying, I just seeing this strip of 3000 South become commercial. And my suggestion is, if we really want it to be commercial, zone it commercial, and then everybody's gotta follow the rules for a commercial zone. Which is better than having the commercial in the residential area.
so then my next question would be, if, so let's say that with this group, with our public hearings and our reading code and all this sort of thing, we say, yes, we like home occupation, and that's all we want in our town. And so then we go back and we shut the door, which is what some of our business owners said, shut the door. What are we gonna do about the people who are already there?
I don't think we shut the door on too many people. I don't think like Adam Knight driving his truck home back and forth to work is gonna be shut down. I think he's gonna
You're in
be
a
fine.
different situation than I am. You're watching Adam Knight. I'm
Yeah, so I'm
watching
just-
Green and Greener landscape.
Yeah, I'm just
And
saying
they're
one,
expanding.
okay,
So that's my problem.
Okay.
Is we have code, we're
okay,
not
let me
enforcing
talk for a
code.
minute when you're done.
Okay, but I'm just not comfortable with the idea that they don't fall into the home occupation, we have nothing else to catch them on, and we do nothing about it.
I agree with that. I agree 100% with that.
So kind of my thought is, don't change the code. Give those that are in violation a letter like you have for other violations, saying this is not grandfathered, and then basically deal with problems and complaints and not,
Well, wait a minute.
but I don't know.
I want to hear what your opinion is to do with those that have a plumbing company or a construction company or an electrician company that are already there. And you mentioned one by name, I'm not going to use his name, but what would you do with him?
I would let Adam Knight do what he does. He drive, okay. let me-
Under home occupation?
Yeah, let me go on.
Okay.
Under the code we have written, I think Adam Knight is okay. He drives a truck back and forth to work.
He's got more than one truck.
He's got 2 or 3.
And he's
See,
probably
that's- I don't want
out
that
of
next
compliance with the 30 or 40 water heaters that are piled out there, and
I haven't seen those. And I'm not saying they're not there, I just haven't seen
Let
them.
me mention another one, and before I say anything, I don't have any problem with any of these. Truthfully, I think Adam Knight's got a right to make a living. I think some of the others do. What about Joe Gordon?
I don't
Joe
know
Gordon's got a
what
commercial
this is.
property, and he's got dozers and graders and backhoes, and I mean, behind his house is every bit as much commercial zone. I don't have a problem with what Joe Gordon does. I think to me, it's not a problem. But what do we do about it? We can't, like Jay said, have the mayor say, yeah, that's okay, you go ahead. No, you can't. It's kind of been pick and choose, and that's
Who do you
unfair.
know?
I agree.
What do we do about it?
Does that start falling under
Here's our home business code.
the amount of property?
Enforcement then, John?
Enforcement by complaint.
So if we don't get a complaint on somebody, we're gonna leave them alone?
I don't know about that. I think any of us can make a complaint.
And I think you'd want to stop expansion.
Let me,
So you document the use now and let them know it's not compliant and can be terminated at any time, but you don't want to say, okay, tomorrow you gotta move. You gotta
Yeah.
give people time to adjust or.
let me dump out one more can of worms.
Okay?
I was not up to speed on this as much as I could have been when we first started, and during the process, my ears have kind of perked up, and I've heard some comments about people who have actually, businesses who have told their offspring, well, why don't we go out and buy you a property in Daniel? You gotta have 5 acres in Daniel, and we'll build you a home, and I'll park all my equipment there. Now, that's something I think is really, getting around the law. And I don't know how much of that is happening, but I do know that it has happened a couple of times. And that, if it's construction or plumbing or electrical equipment that is being specifically brought out here, rather than buying commercial zone in Hebert, I think that is the pinnacle. I think that's the very top point of where we need to look at. Because the person who is living in the home and has developed the property, actually that their parents have developed the property, or whoever their business connections are, that person, okay, they're living on the property and they claim that they're operating the business, but really the truth is that it's being put out here to avoid the expensive commercial property in town. I think that there's just a ton of cans of worms in this whole thing, that once we get into it, it's really gonna be tough.
And I think there's been misinformation too, because I know, for example, when Mark was gonna buy the property he has now, the old owner came and said, well, the new owner wants to park a truck in the building there, along the side, would that be okay? And we're thinking, well, sure, we've got other people parking their truck in the street. I'm guessing that's not what you asked, and that's probably not what you heard back.
No, it's not. I actually went to the former mayor's home with the property owner and had a visit with him, and I was basically kind of told by that mayor, and I could see the problem. This is an RA5 zone. We want to be a friendly community. We want to see somebody come. Keep your neighbors happy. Basically, keep your neighbors happy and you can bring your business here. That's kind of the way that's what made me move out here, out to Daniels to do what I did. And
that's
you
why
keep your neighbors happy and nobody complains, and you can do what you're doing
Keep
there.
work, keep complaining.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because I kind of thought there's more to the story than what part I heard, on planning, so.
You're one of the people that Tom was talking about. People that move out to kind of have their residence and their lot in the same place.
Yeah.
And as a business, that makes sense.
And when I moved to Daniels, I owned 3 trucks. And I told them, I said, well, at this point, I have a place to keep one of the trucks at one of the driver's houses, and I would like to keep the other 2 at my residence. And I admit, I've grown, I bought more stuff, I got the room. It was a good thing for me at that time, and it gave me a chance to grow my business to where it is now. And tried to keep my neighbors happy and
that's the key. But there's no provision in code that says, well, move out here and keep your neighbors happy. The code says you're in violation, period.
Right.
And John, I think what you're saying makes an awful lot of sense. I don't think we ought to drive people out of here, but I don't think that we can do it without having the I's dotted and the T's crossed. I think that we need to make some sort of carve out something that allows for it specifically so that people come and say, well, why are you letting them do that? And it's because it's right here. We have something we can go back to. I have a real hard time kicking people out or telling them they can't make a living or go about the business of just providing, you know, food on the table for their family. And I think what he described is absolutely, there's an awful lot of people that have a lot of pride in having a home and having enough space where they can park some trucks there as long as they don't disturb their neighbors. I don't see the problem. But it's the disturbing the neighbors thing that is where I have the issue. And I have been on that end of that, receiving end of that, and it's not fun.
And size, I think, really dictates.
Yeah, I think there absolutely needs to be limits, and as, you know,
I mean.
over a certain size, there's no way.
He started at a spot, and then it got to where it's bigger, and he got to a frame of mind also. I need to get a bigger.
But not all people are like Mark.
No, they're not, but the size.
You say that for sure, huh?
Yeah.
The thing that got me started on all of this was reading the council minutes on it. I probably shouldn't have, but there was a business license approval and it said, oh, everything's fine because all the stuff I'm going to pile out there for my business is going to be in the back of my yard. Well, the back of his yard is closer to my house than it is to his house. And I'm like, gee, thanks. I really appreciate you doing that to me, council.
I'll teach you to get on the council.
Well,
Kelly.
I guess,
you can do a lot more off the council than on.
I guess I'm kind of, I don't understand where you guys are saying that you guys that are discriminating. I guess I'm really having a real struggle with this, saying you're discriminating, that you've discriminated against others, that this barn guy came and he wanted a business, they said no. It was, I don't think that he ever put an application in saying he was going to open a business.
Yes, he did.
He did? And was there, why did he get denied?
Because it was in a residential zone.
Too much impact.
I was gonna say, there was more, it wasn't it just because he was in a residential zone.
Yeah,
There was
it
more
was
to it,
impact.
it wasn't just that.
Traffic.
So that's what I'm saying, you guys are acting like it's saying we're discriminating against, just picking and choosing.
Well, but
And I
that's-
don't think that is correct.
Yeah, and
And
that's,
these guys did
No,
come
what I'm
in
saying
and they
is-
would say, this is, so the council cannot say they was shocked at what anybody came. Because when they would come in, they would say, we are gonna do this. The one
Right,
case,
but I'm saying-
we're gonna put this in our backyard, and the council member, all of them, okay. So that's what I'm saying, they are not, you know, everybody has a part in this. I'm just saying, I think you better watch how you're saying, we're discriminating against picking and choosing,
well,
because we're not.
but the one you just described is clearly a commercial operation. It happens there. What, if you look at this one, business owners don't perform their business at their house. It's not a commercial. It's not a commercial operation. They park their stuff there, they're doing their work elsewhere. So there's definitely a difference between commercial and what's coming out. If you're talking about Adam Knight parking his car there, he goes out and does his business out somewhere else.
I agree, but I think a name that fits that is home-based commercial. Because his base is his home, and he goes out and does commercial work.
See, is there a word, phrase that could be
Well, and
used?
so
that
does Mark.
You're
Yeah,
working
so does Mark.
off from the house, off
Off-premise.
premise.
And so is the airport, because they fly off and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But they have
We
a
should
bigger
take it all with
impact.
them when they win.
But what, if Tom said, when he made the comment of, all these people are coming out here, so they get low taxes. Well, this new law with the county, they ain't getting low taxes, because they're gonna come after their property and say, oh, you got a commercial business license for Daniel. We're gonna put you as a commercial property.
Have they be at the commercial rate?
And so
It
it's
isn't-
not
it isn't-
any cheaper.
It
So
isn't
you
just
get your
taxes.
business license in Park City? is
Yeah,
that
the
right?
purchase of the property
Yeah.
is a lot less. Residential
Well,
property is
they're
a lot
gonna
less
be-
than commercial.
Yeah, but they tax it at the use.
Yes, they're taxing
Not
it
the
as
zone.
commercial.
He's talking purchase.
Oh, purchase?
It's a whole package. It isn't just the taxes, it isn't just the purchase and acquisition of the real estate. It's, I mean, it's a lot of things.
Yes.
And I have, I don't know, and I can't verify, just whistling in the wind here, okay, I have understood that there have been more than just one that have actually done that. That there's a person living on the property is there, and the equipment is here because it's cheaper here in Daniel than to buy commercial property in the city.
was a good deal. I wish my dad would have done that.
Wouldn't we all? I agree with what John says. I don't think we want to run these people out that are legitimate. But boy, if we start saying, okay, can't be anything outside, it's gotta be hairdressing or nails or, you know, any of this other stuff inside the building, there's no outside storage, we're climbing Mount Everest, guys. It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will help much or not, but I made the comment once in a meeting that, you know, you don't have to run everybody out that came in, but you can stop them from coming on your little grandfather saying if you want.
Is grandfather what we wanna do?
But, let me
I
finish.
think we come to
Let me finish.
Shelley's discrimination
Yeah.
thing with that.
Let me finish. And once this grandfather thing comes along, you're gonna have to say, well, you're gonna have to stop the growth of your business at this point. And when you wanna expand your business, you wanna make it bigger, park more things here, grow it, okay, we're topped out. You're gonna need to look elsewhere to this commercial zone, like we talked about, having a commercial zone but you're gonna stop the small businesses from coming. You're gonna allow the people that are here to stay, that really haven't been too complaint driven about, I don't think. Maybe there have been some, I know that there's some that I agree that shouldn't be doing business in Daniels, the way they do it. But it'll eventually weed itself out and they'll move on. Or
rezone,
rezone.
if it makes sense.
I mean, right now, I don't see that there's too many businesses that are too big in Daniels. I don't want to leave where I'm at with all of my truck. I want to be able to take my truck home at night still. And I want to be able to keep stuff at my property. And I see that stuff is kind of getting looked at as being what we're trying to get rid of or keep from coming. And what Daniels has always been, people have things, they bring things home, they have projects, they have, I can use something that I got a good deal on, something I can use it, let's save it until I get time to use it.
Well, and I would add to that as well, that all took place for decades before the town came into being.
Right.
And if we're gonna grandfather stuff, we do have to recognize that this is what Daniels has always been. I mean, yeah, there's a limit to it, and it's just, it all depends on how the complaints are, how the individuals behaving with their neighbors. And if they're doing like your neighbor and saying, well, too bad, deal with it, live with it, I think there absolutely is a need to get rid of something like that.
And I think that we can do some things as neighbors and have some privacy fences and some landscaping, things like that make it to where it's not a visual eyesore for everyone. That can be worked through, but
John, can I push you a little more?
Yeah.
Where would you go with that? How would we keep these people that are decent neighbors that are doing business like that? How would we deal with them? Just strictly from home occupation, or do we expand it somehow, or what would you do?
Based on the things that I've found, that I have not found another entity that has commercial in a residential zone. Based on our general plan of preserving property values and safety and welfare, I would not let commercial in the town of Daniel in residential zones.
So do we go after them and kick them out?
Now, I think that if you drive your truck back and forth to work, that's no problem. If Mark brings his truck home because he's been working in it, that's no problem. Now, if he stores a lot of materials there, and I'm sorry for using you as an example.
go ahead, I'm open.
If he stores a lot of materials there and maybe has 2 trucks, I start to wonder if that's quite right.
All right, what do we do about Jay's neighbor?
I don't know her neighbor.
What would you suggest, Jay? Where do we go with it in terms of what you're seeing?
I don't know, I have, what I'm seeing is, what I'm hearing is, good old boy network. What I'm hearing is, if you and I are fine, then I can do whatever I want. I like there to be a standard. I like there to be a rule. So if somebody moves in, and Kim doesn't really like him, so he can't have his business, well, that's not right. I mean, there should be rules and there should be standards. So I shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be my job to go after my neighbor when he decides to run a business out of his yard. There should be a code. I should be able to go to my town and say, you know, my neighbor, he's driving 2 and 3 snowplows out of here every morning now. And there should be a code that they can go to and say, you're in violation, instead of home occupation, in which case he was in violation when the first truck showed up. Because he's not bringing his truck home from work. He's running a business out of his garage. There's a difference. My husband drives his car to work, he brings it home. It's his car, he drives it. He doesn't do business out of his car. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're leaving a lot of windows open and the flies are gonna get in.
I see it, Jay, as we're shutting every window there is. And there's nothing that can get in. The home occupation code is pretty clear.
That's fine, but then you turn around and say home occupation code, and then we're gonna be nice to everybody, and
No.
if they bring home too many
Well,
trucks,
that's-
then we're gonna talk to them
that's
about
the
being
council's
too
problem.
big.
That's the
It is.
council's
Can
problem,
we-
whether they uphold the code or don't.
Right, and we
But
just
it's
talked
also-
about Charleston, and what their council and their mayor did to their town. So,
Yeah, and I don't
So I'm
know
gonna put
that
all
we
my
write
faith-
code to make the council happy or not happy. I don't know that we worry about that. We write code for the town, write it to, assuming that it's gonna
we
be
write it so we can
supported.
enforce it.
Yeah,
And that's what it'll come to.
Are we getting close at all, John?
I don't know. Lots of good discussion, but I think we're still a long ways out from making very many decisions.
Can we shut a lot of these businesses down with the newly approved code now?
I think we could shut a lot of them down with it. And we want to be careful
The
with
question
that.
is, do we want to?
Yeah, we gotta be careful
Well,
with that.
can you do it under health and noise?
So if you go out there and shut somebody down because I complain, so he has to quit. Then he calls his attorney, and his attorney says, well, your town has this business, and they're all doing the same thing that Bubba here was doing. So he gets to come out.
Yep, and that's what they'll do if you don't have a code.
That's right.
If you got a
If we
code,
don't
you
have a
can
code-
point at
It's
it.
right there.
It's
So,
right
We're not
there.
talking about him, we're talking about you and this code.
That's right, this is home occupation, you're all in violation.
So,
So I'm complaining about him, and now you're all having to clear it. Is that really how you want to run it?
Yeah, I want to have a code that we follow.
Okay,
So we
but
just have to get
this,
the
by
code to
this
follow.
code,
Adam
most
Knight
of
has to
these
go.
people are in violation.
I think we
And
need
if
to
I
look at each
complain?
And so
business
does he.
carefully.
And no
So does my neighbor, and so does the other neighbor.
Yeah, so that puts me in the position of,
And I think there's more than 23 in.
and that's putting
Down
me
today.
in the position of
Yeah.
dragging
There's
this
more than that in
into the
business
mud.
licenses, so.
Okay, whoa, hold on to that thought for a minute. There are certainly more than that business licenses. But how many of them are not following this plan right now?
Most,
Most.
The majority.
Yeah.
most of them.
I don't know that most. Give me a number. How many?
How about half?
Let's say there's 100. Let's say there's 100 that don't follow that code right now.
What's his name?
That's 10% of our residents. And so we're gonna take the other 90%, decrease their property values, decrease their safety and wellness, because we want these 10% to be happy. Wrong idea, guys. Wrong idea.
But when the public comes, and there was public notices out, who came?
The business
Well, we
owners.
sent messages to the,
And everyone, there was public notice for, everybody had
Yeah.
public notice. They could have came.
Yep.
and they didn't.
And John,
So-
I'd have to say, I agree with you to an extent on that, if everything was new cloth, but it isn't. Russ Huntsman was there long before the town was formed. Joe Gordon was. Raymond with his spraying business. Now, this one across from Jay, I don't know when they came, but I think they're pretty new.
Yeah,
Now,
we
in
wrote alone.
response to that, Tom, they were under county code. And the county code is more strict than what we just wrote.
They weren't
Or
with-
or really similar to what we just wrote.
They weren't with the Beathers next to me. We fought and fought and fought, and they said, no,
It
go
was-
ahead and do it.
Okay, all I'm saying is what
Yeah,
was
same
written
good
in
old
black
boys.
and white county code. And I don't know when the county was organized or when this particular code was written, but I imagine it's been a while.
The code that we're looking at was adopted in 2000, I think.
Okay, so that's not that old.
Well, whether there was code there or not, there was a definite lack of enforcement for these businesses to have lasted for decades here in Daniels.
Yeah, does that mean we allow them to continue? That's our decision.
That's what we have to come up with. That's what we've got to
Or-
decide.
I mean, we have to have some kind of a transition plan that over a period of years, they're,
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to honor the code from the county
But they wouldn't.
until the town was incorporated. Is that the right word?
yeah, but we'd have to do what we've done with everything else, and they have to prove why they're grandfathered, just like you have to prove it's a lot of record.
And I think where a lot of this stuff has happened is
Well, if you do it
so
one
much
case
of
at
our
a time,
ground
That's what I'm
has been
saying.
on the farming community.
eventually,
So, you know, you're just, people are running.
And if you're gonna do it, you have to
whatever.
give people
They're doing whatever they have to make a
years to
living.
do it, because they can't, like, tomorrow,
But-
okay.
Well, I agree.
With that taken.
You got to be fair with it.
yeah.
We
The
gotta
code
reward
applies
it.
to everyone, just not me.
But I think the main thing is I think the council needs to be really careful when they grant business licenses in the future. To explain what the code is, explain what the expectations are, rather than saying, oh, great,
yeah, but you
And I
you
think for
deny
these
somebody a
discussions,
business
that will
license, and yet there's somebody in the town that's operating. a
but if you
similar
have
business,
a,
You're still.
if you have a transition plan, be it 10 years out, they can no longer be here, and they've been notified that they're, you can do that legally.
Well, I like the idea of really getting back to a residential type situation and what the general plan states about the town of Daniel and its purposes. I really like that, and I think it can be done. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to start going out into the field
Enforcement.
and enforcing it. It might be one by one, but pretty soon, after 2 or 3 of these violators are set back, then the rest of that so-called community starts to say, uh-oh, we gotta do something different.
Well,
So I don't think you go through and have to take every individual business. I just think that it has to be a decent code to support the 2 or 3 that you first have to take care of.
And
Just an opinion.
And like also said, maybe a time frame, you know, that these types of businesses are not
Maybe that's,
allowed, and so there's gonna be so much time that is gonna be allowed, what would be the word for it, for a transition.
This is the best one.
yeah, and I'm just saying,
You know.
so when they
need to do
renew their
something.
business license, that's discussed, and there's a transition plan.
Anybody here remember Dean Sellers?
Yeah.
What was Dean Sellers' tactic? I will keep you going to court until you go broke. And I think once we start first enforcement, second enforcement, third enforcement, I think Pandora's box is gonna be open. Because, was it you, Eric, that said they're gonna get their lawyer, come back and say, well, that got them and them and them?
That was
And that was you, okay. I think that's gonna happen. And as soon as that happens, now we have to enforce everybody. We don't do just 1 or 2. I think Pandora's box comes
That's why I'm
open,
saying,
and the town is gonna be really financially strapped to keep the lawyers in operation.
you have to do a transition plan, and it has to apply to everybody the same.
So let me ask you all a question in the last minute that we have, is that okay?
We never got purpose done.
I know, but I think we're getting closer.
I don't think you are.
Maybe not. from what we've just recently talked about, it seems like some might want just to leave the home occupation code as it is and have a transition time. And it seems like some maybe want new code for a new entity. Where do you guys stand on this? Can you help me give me some numbers here of where we're kind of thinking, Tom?
I would refer back to when we came to the agreement that we came to on the home occupation code. On that night, we had 3 different breakdowns.
Okay.
That is the new code.
And one of the reasons why I voted for it is because we weren't gonna limit it to home occupation strictly.
Okay.
That I think there is a place for the people like you're talking about, a little bit larger, and then there's a third classification that have to go in the commercial zone.
Okay.
And I think that
So you're looking for here. You're looking for new code.
well, I would, like Eric says,
But
the
somewhere in
home
between.
occupation with a different delineation in it, perhaps.
Okay, but that would be like new code.
But you just opened the same can of worms. When do we make them make that transition?
Okay, let me just kind of get an idea of where we're at. Pam?
I moved here 12 years ago. I came here with the code in process, want to keep that. And every year when the people renew, they get a transition, you have a plan for
So we
them.
kind of start to
Yep,
transition.
And we enforce what we can.
Jay?
I don't know.
Why did she get 2 votes?
Oh, did she vote? Well, I
No,
put
he moved
home
it.
occupation in this transition.
Put a mark there and a mark there.
Maybe that's not the
She's
best
extra
back, or the best breakdown, I don't know. John, do you have any thoughts or comments?
My thoughts, still, with the guy that's got his one trailer and this truck, and he takes off and goes works on the job site, he's not making a big impact one way or the other to his neighbors or anything else.
So you're saying
I
new
don't
code
s-
probably?
I would say a code to
Yeah,
at least
that's what
handle
he's
something like that.
That's what I agree with. That guy would probably be
He
legal, but
seems fine, yeah. He's not.
He's
Let's say I'm
not
talking
causing
about-
a problem, they are not causing a problem.
it
But
seems
if they
like
got something where it's
Problem by
health
who?
or noise.
That's the question.
Me?
That's the question.
He's not a problem to me, but he's a problem to you. So now where do we stand?
No, if they're not a problem
So you gotta make it by the code.
the neighbors right there,
No, by the code.
It's all defendable.
by the code.
Not defendable.
Kim, where are you kind of in this breakdown? What are you thinking? New code or?
Well, I like what I heard from you, John, when you first started to make some comments, that our whole town is designed to be agricultural. And we do have some commercial zones. And I'm to the point now where I'm saying, let's put the big businesses in the commercial zones. And the only way I can see doing that is you've got to get this code, which I think we've done a good job on. Got to be tweaked a little still, but get it enforced, make it happen.
But give them some time to transition?
Absolutely.
Okay, so maybe there and there. Did you vote yet, Jay? Am I just bugging you? You have
She
any
can't
comment?
I'm just,
I thought you got 2 votes.
No, that was me.
Oh,
Okay, Gary, Eric, do you have any comments or anything you
Oh,
want
I-
to say?
I'm kind of home on and transition, so, because I
So
want to
maybe
vote.
here and here,
He wants 2 votes.
But
He should have to.
but not real strong that way, maybe?
if Mark's willing, I'd like to hear his comments, since he's
Yeah.
been through the pain of
Yeah,
this
I
whole
want
meeting.
to hear Mark and his son and Sherry.
You ready?
Yeah.
Are you?
The council,
Yeah.
the council members last month approved the new occupation code of 825, giving that you would come back and rewrite a new code
Exactly. That's what I was
to
gonna
allow
say
the people that are there to stay without running them out. And now it's going back the other way. Now you've got what you wanted to start with, you're flip-flopping and kicking us out.
Okay,
That's what I see happening.
that's what you, so you feel like maintaining the home occ code as it is that we just wrote and then having a transition time is a flip-flop?
No, new code.
So, yeah,
too. Well,
you
but
don't
when
want
got
this
that
to happen.
approved and
You
everybody
want this
voted
to
for
happen.
it, You were saying you were gonna write more new code to go
Yeah.
with it.
To
To get them.
fit in the people that are here.
Yeah.
And now
Okay,
you're not
so you're a
allowing
new
them,
code-
you're saying,
Your new code.
I'm not done talking.
Okay.
Okay. You
His
did,
son, he voted away.
the city council